So, Paul, we'll start as usual with your team news for this week. Have you got any fresh injuries from last weekend's victory?
No, a couple of knocks come out of it, but nothing that was going to be a major issue. And we had a player with a bit of illness earlier in the week, but was back in training today, and will travel with the squad. So we, as we were last week, Elliot, Mishi, he's closing in on a return. I think the hopes are that he'll join training next week. Obviously, we've got a game and see how we come out of that. But if we came out of that well and no injuries, then we'd be back to a full complement. We know obviously there's Arjun, but as in the ones that are contracted to us and our players here. So as before, plenty of options and hopefully that can continue for us.
That's great news. So, no chance of Michi this weekend?
No, he hasn't trained with us as yet. He's done individual work with Dave Moore and Greg Howard. Like I said, he may, I hope certainly that he can join in next week. No reason at the minute certainly that he won't be able to. He seems very confident in himself about the injury, not feeling it at all. So fingers crossed that can be the last we hear of it, certainly for this season.
Another tough weekend then for you in terms of selecting a squad for a long trip down to Weymouth?
It's a long trip, certainly. The week itself has been pretty good. Changed it around slightly in terms of because of the long journey and training and what we'll do tomorrow. But nice on the back of a good win. I went to watch Halifax Solihull Tuesday night, so it was nice to take in a game again when it's not you that's in the spotlight. I guess results went relatively well for us in the main. We're in a better position than we were this time last week, but still a lot of hard work to do, and that's been, I think, the big message from myself and what trying to stress to the players. I take it, in the manner it's intended, but quite a lot of people are talking about, playoffs, and yeah, of course, that's what we want. But just because we've had a good week doesn't, alter the fact there's still a lot of hard work to go and a lot of points to play for. And, we can't bask in last weekend. That's been and gone now. It's far from it. We, like I said, Weymouth is the next one. And yes, everyone will look at it in terms of the league table and think that's a good game for us. But they're going to be scrapping. They're going to be fighting. They've had a little break. That might be a positive, it might be a negative. But they should enter it, I think, certainly at the beginning of the game with an enthusiasm and an energy that they haven't played at home for a little while as well. So we'll be keen to try and, I guess, cause a bit of an upset. And we've got to try and make sure that doesn't happen.
When you're selecting a match day squad and you've got the options that you've currently got, which is a lot, how difficult is it to tell sort of senior professional players that would expect to be in a match day squad that they're not going to be travelling with you?
I think they, you not preempt it, but I think I said to you last weekend when I took all the squad because it was a local game, that one of the few that we can take everyone with us and keep that togetherness. And after the game, a lot of the lads, even the ones that weren't directly involved in the 16, were with their teammates and the squad members on the pitch. And that's, in an ideal world, what I would always do. But obviously there's costs, there's logistics and this weekend and the league in general doesn't allow you to do that. So that was kind of made clear last week prior to naming the team and the squad for Chesterfield, that I want us all to be in this together. And I understand fully that is easier when you are one of those that's in the team more often than not, or at least on the bench. But understand that you are valued, that you still may have your part to play, and to be ready and ultimately support your teammates. Don't any disappointment, is not realistically their fault, whether I like it or not. Some of that a lot of that falls at my door as manager, because I'm the one that I guess selects the team and the squad. But I think the fact that we've still got a lot to play for in the season will hopefully help that togetherness, and also the fact that I believe we've got good characters that will be disappointed, of course, but are keen for the season to end on a good note. So that's it's not the easiest part of the job, and not ideal. If you could guarantee that you had 16 players fit all season, then you'd probably run with that squad. But as I said before, that's not the case, and we've experienced good times when the squad's been fit and healthy, and bad times. Bad times are easier in terms of numbers. Don't always give you the best chance of winning games. This time, feel like we're in a strong position at the minute. I want that to continue, but it does make some of those decisions harder for me as a manager. But like I said, I think we all trying to pull in the same direction to make it a good April to begin with, and that would certainly set us up to go into the last month of the season.
Danny Amos has earned quite a few positive reviews from supporters, certainly in the last sort of 4 games or so, that stretch that you've had. How impressed have you been, or pleased have you been with him?
Yeah, we've had a couple of conversations along the way since he's come in about what he needs to be, how he needs to approach the game. I think make myself and Chris, probably in particular, us two, happy with his contribution to the team. And that might sound almost a little harsh. I'm not sure how that does sound, but he's playing for a contract ultimately, and his future. I'm sure he will get another club, but he hasn't yet found a home. I think this is the most games he's played for some time, and at a full-time level. So that can certainly be a positive. But I have seen kind of a bit of a change in Danny since he's been here, in a positive way. Really nice lad right from the start. I guess part of the question I kind of posed to him is, you got to show me that you want it, and don't just be that nice lad all the time. You have to sometimes have an edge. You cross that white line, you've got to want it more than the opposition. You've got to want it more than some of your teammates in terms of competition to be in the team. And I think he's kind of started to show that. So hopefully that can continue. He's certainly contributed. He's played a decent number of games now. I think pretty much he's into double figures. I want him to want to stay in the team now. And Adam, I know Crooks will be behind him, ready to take advantage of any slips or any changes of heart on my side, for that left back spot.
What are you and Chris in particular looking for him to earn a longer deal?
That determination and that real desire to push themselves, not just settle for being part of the group, being part of training sessions. I want him to want to be the best player. I want him to hurt when someone beats him. I want him to sort of really commit to stopping the ball going in the back of the net. I think in general, he's, like I said, the early games, he did okay. I want okay to not be good enough for him. And then if it goes too far the other way, it's then for me to say, oh, you're doing all right. You're not going to be the best player every week, but that shouldn't change the mindset of wanting to push yourself to be the best every week. I think that's when you can start to really achieve things.
What do you think that
and
sort
Danny's,
of mindset comes down to?
I think sometimes it can be you as an individual, your, I guess, natural state, and that's when it can be difficult to change. But I do believe you can change it. Also, I think sometimes circumstances that you become almost accustomed to, like I think his experience at Doncaster, for example, then going to Port Vale. I know full well, no one said that Danny Amos was a bad kid. He's got a bad attitude, none of that. But it was almost, like I said, too nice. And he's still a very nice lad, and I don't no issues with that. But again, whether it's the training pitch you're going on to, whether it's games, nice lads get eaten up. They've got to be ready to stand up. And like I said, stand up and be counted in terms of for your own team, but for you as well. And I think perhaps that's something that he's now sort of, I guess, experiencing, going through. He's had an opportunity to play more games. And I think I've seen, like I said, positive signs in terms of him taking that on board. So hopefully he can continue in that vein. As I said, he knows that if he doesn't, there's another player there, and I don't want that to strike fear into people. But I think you've got to deal with competition. I know some people say go down the line, competition isn't good for some. I think if you're going to make it in football or any sport like this, you've got to be able to deal with that. It's same with dealing with crowds, pressure. You've got to find ways to do it, and we will try and help people, of course, with that. But when you're out there, although you have got your teammates, there's an element you're on your own, and you have to have that resilience, that mentality to get through situations, to get the best out of yourself.
That's really interesting. Thank you for that. He's one of a few players that have perhaps been underused elsewhere or needed that opportunity. And Grimsby Town and yourself have offered that. When you think Andy as well didn't play much at Salford, Arjan as well, Scott Burgess, obviously you gave an opportunity to as well. Is signing players like that with a point, coming in with a point to prove, really important for you when you're trying to recruit?
It's not certainly the be all and end all. But I would suggest kind of where we are in the pyramid, what our kind of almost places within our league. I think there's an element of those players can fit us quite often, but it's certainly not a definitive. If we can get a player that's played at their club for, I don't know. I guess Gav is an example. Although he wasn't playing as much as he would have liked, but has played, has had success. Sometimes it comes down to individuals. I guess some people might, you hear the thought of if someone's had success, well, they're not as hungry for it. Sometimes it can actually make you hungry for success. But likewise, that comes down to what that individual is. What environment is he placed in? I'm a big believer in that. I think certain environments can make you feel comfortable in a negative way. Therefore, you don't push, you settle for ordinary rather than trying to excel. But those lads, yeah, in some ways, and maybe they're all youngish, most of them, but at different stages of their career. But I think overall, again, back to that, some of the homework we do, they're good characters. So hopefully we get in the right people that, might sound silly, but first and foremost like playing football, and then are willing to show the good attitude, to, do the best when they get the chance, but when they're not kind of just throw the toys out of the pram and have a negative impact on the group. And we've had that with all of those. Scott had to wait his chance, came in, did well, then found himself out of the squad at the weekend. That wasn't easy. He was a little bit harsh, as I said, but I have to make those decisions. But he's good about his training, exactly how I thought he would. and expect him to, and no sulking. And Andy was a prime example. Came in, played out of position. Then he's had to be very patient to get an opportunity when Sean and Luke were doing very well. And again, Sean didn't particularly do anything or much wrong, certainly, for Andy to come in, and he's done well. But then you speak to Sean Pearson, and he's got no qualms, as in, he thinks the decision was a bit harsh, but he's fully behind those two lads and wants the team, the club, to do well. So that's a big help. And you've seen the other side of that sometimes at clubs or with certain players, and it can have a real negative impact on the team and the squad.
The away form in particular has been very good recently after the drought that sort of happened mid-season. Why do you think that's improved so much? And particularly the goals, that was something you were struggling to score away from home during that sort of spell, but they've really improved of late.
They have. I guess Sean Dyche says the ball's gone in the net rather than the wrong side of it. We haven't really changed much. We certainly haven't really changed tactically or anything like that. The lineup's been pretty much the same. We did have a spell, obviously, when we were missing John in particular. The system changed a little bit, trying to find the right solution, and probably struggled to. But sometimes it just happens. Like I said, joking aside, Burnley scoring 3 goals last night after struggling, with the 2-1 down we talked about this morning. Or they obviously kept a belief there. But a lot of people, I can imagine, looking at it, thinking, well, Burnley aren't going to score 3 goals. They don't do that, but they did. And was going to Chesterfield to win and score 4 goals. The win didn't particularly surprise me, but to score 4, because even with the best in the world, you don't expect to score 4 that often in a game. I think only thing I would say, Elliot, is when you get them couple of wins, that there's evidence there to say you can win away from home. You always know you can, but the longer a run goes on, maybe it does get in the subconscious of players' minds, and whether that's fans, whether that's staff as well. It becomes a bit of it's a monkey on your back, as they say, and we haven't got that. So what we have got is 8 games to go, with in a good position, certainly to try and extend our season.
It must please you that 4 different scorers last week as well. And then when you think the game before, Luke got back on the score sheet. Harry's been on the score sheet recently after a bit of a spell. Jordan scored as well against Dagenham. We spoke before about obviously the need to not rely too much on John McAtee. It must have been pleasing last week that you got 4 different scorers.
Yeah, at the same time, I was pleased that John got on the score sheet and got an assist. Don't think he'd been quite at the levels that he's can play at or been, and again, maybe that's understandable. I think people might not realise it's the first sort of proper season he's had of playing regular football.